Okay, so the title of this presentation is The Career Path of a
Okay.
Scientist. So,
Dr. Luzardo,
okay.
let me present you. So today we have this second talk of this day. We have Dr. Ivan Luzardo. He's a postdoctoral research concentrating in neuroendocrinology and metabolism laboratory at the Institute of Neurology at the UNAM campus Curitiba. On his most recent research, Dr. Luzardo's project has focused on gut microbiota regulation in newborns. He graduated from Autonomous Universidad de Barcelona, Spain, as an academic scholar in food science and technology. He also has a degree in food engineering at the University of Indio, Colombia. He has also earned master's and a PhD at the UAC, Mexico. Well, he has done some research scholars at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. So, Dr. Luzardo, can you start with your presentation?
Okay, thank you all for having here. So the title of this presentation is The Career Path of a Scientist. So I just want to give you a brief talk about how was my immersion within science and how were all the academic path that I took to become a scientist. So as Dr. Oseguera said, I'm currently a postdoctoral fellow at the Institute of Neurobiology from the National University of Mexico here in Querétaro. So I just want to start in just asking you what a scientist looks like. So I believe most people think that a scientist are perhaps gifted people or mad people or just working from some kind of evil company and industry serving their own narcissism. But I just want just to tell you about that as scientists are just people that are very interested in questioning how things work and conduct the scientific method to achieve this goal. So the most important thing of a scientist is that they follow the scientific method. So I believe that each person has its own journey within the scientific career. So I do want to talk to you about how did my journey start. So at first, I'm from Colombia. I was born in Bogota, like 33 years ago. So I want to present you here some of the main facts of Colombia, that is a country that is in a square area, half of Mexico. Its main capital city is Bogota, and is a city that had as its main characteristic that is a very cultural city. So these are some of the most important touristic spots of Bogota, and Bogota is usually called the South American Athens because of all the cultural and academic events that usually take place in this city. It is approximately that more than 100 universities that are placed in Bogota, so it's a city with a very high academic and scientific level. So I didn't have a particular interest at any major. I believe that I was skilled in several subjects when I was in high school. So I was kind of skilled in physics, in chemistry, in biology, but also in mathematics or the social sciences such as philosophy or history. So I didn't have like a particular interest of any of these subjects. So I wanted to choose a major that was more related with a combination of all. So I believe that a major that could combine all of these subjects was the food engineering. Why the food engineering? Because I have always wanted to work with living things. I can work personally, I can work with things that are not alive. So for instance, material or for instance, astronomy. So I believe that my main interest was to understand how a live thing worked. And I was particularly interested in food processing, in the food industry. So I believe that one of the most important things when choosing your major is to select something you actually like. Because if you don't like it, this is going to are going to devote in
Dr. Luzardo, I think that Dr. Luzardo, can you hear us?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, can you continue?
Okay,
Yes.
so when I was in my sixth semester of my career, I started because in would give me like some of the skill to become a scientist. So I started with something called Semillero de Investigación. It's more like research reading group. So there they taught me what was about the scientific method. So I think I was kind of lucky because there was some kind of access to grant or a scholarship that actually uh, they can or make sense if you work in a laboratory. So I believe that if I didn't start working at a laboratory, I wouldn't have access to some kind of opportunity and scholarship that they just appeared in my life. So I believe that if you want to start your scientific career, it's very important to start working at a laboratory. It could be at your college or it could be perhaps at your first work. So something I advise you is to start working as a laboratory technician because it would give you some kind of skill that you will need in a future scientific career. So one of the most important things that I learned working at a laboratory is to be organized. So it's very important to be organized because you need to have some kind of criteria to organize your, for instance, your experiment or your thoughts. So I believe that is very important when you are starting as a scientist, that you need to be very organized and to have a major goal to follow. So my first opportunity started when I had access to the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. So I don't know if you have listened about it, but it's a very generous scholarship because it actually pay you everything. It pay you like a social security service, you for instance, all the payment that for living, accommodation. It also pay you, for instance, holidays, travel. So I believe this was a huge opportunity I had. So at first, something very important when you want to apply to a particular scholarship, you need to know what was required as a paperwork. So all the paperwork is very important because it actually guides you about what are the skills or something you need to apply for. So one thing that this particular opportunity asked is to be enrolled in a research group. So I had lucky because like a year before this, I was actually enrolled in a research group. It's very important to have an excellent academic record. So perhaps you might think that why is it important to have an excellent academic record, because it kind of gives you some guarantee that you actually want to study, that you actually want to work with people, to meet other perspectives. So it's very important to have an excellent academic record and the language skills. So perhaps not only English, but if you are skilled, for instance, in another language that is very popular, for instance, Chinese or Russian or Arabic, that is very important to apply for the scholarship. So it's important that you actually have a principal motivation for doing this change. it's not always that you just want to travel or to meet new people. No, it's actually that you want to have an advantage in your, in, in your scientific career, or for instance, in your knowledge. So if you feel that you need more contact with people around the world, if you feel that perhaps you you need to be more skilled in a certain area of knowledge, it's very important to have some motivation for pursuing that goal. And the reference letter, I don't know if in Mexico these letters are kind of very important, but around the world in some countries, for instance, USA or in Europe, the reference letters are very important because they are kind of a legal contract that someone is telling to another one that they actually know you and they actually know how you work. So it's very important that someone know how are you working or how is your relationship with other people, so they can have you a very good letter to present for this opportunity. So thanks to the etiology, I was selected for an academic exchange at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. I believe it was an experience that completely changed my life because it was kind of my first international contact with people from all around the world. It was my first time in Europe. I have to adapt to a new culture, and I also have to learn a new language. I knew it that the Catalan language was spoken in Barcelona, but I didn't have like the feeling on how spoken it was in the city. I believe it was perhaps a very rare language that no more people speaking anymore. But actually, I learned that in Barcelona and in Catalonia, a lot of people speak Catalan. So I think it was a very interesting experience having a different language to learn and different people to work and to interact with. So I believe that something I learned is that the dreams are possible. Perhaps you may think that having an scholarship or going abroad is kind of or very difficult, but I believe that the opportunities are in there and you just need to apply, but with the proper preparation. So you cannot apply without having a goal or without having the skill to apply for. You need to check what is required for this scholarship and prepare for it. So once the scholarship finished, I came back to my country, but I cannot have this feeling that I wanted to live that international experience again. So first, I wanted to finish quickly my major to have some kind of career because I didn't know what to do after I graduated. So I kind of have some kind of problematic thinking because I wanted to achieve the main goal of my career, but I didn't know what the meaning to be a professional in my major because I wanted to be a productive member of the society, but I didn't know what to work because I kind of have some knowledge, some people that I interacted in the past, some kind of like it, but I didn't know how to apply all that knowledge in constructing and building my career. So at first, I started working at the industry. I had a very disappointed experience from industry, but I don't think that all people have some kind of experience. I believe this is my personal experience. So at first, I was a dairy quality analyst at a very big company in Colombia called Alcoria. It's a company something like Alpura or Lala. And then I was a cereal grain especially in a company called Alimentos Polar that is kind of similar to Maseca, for instance. So the main problem of this company is that the payment was very low, the working hours were very hard. So I didn't want that in my career. So I was kind of disappointed because the whole time I was saying, I can't believe that I studied a major for 5 years to go into industry with a low payment and with terrible working conditions. So I didn't want that in my life. I learned a lot. Actually, I believe this working experience has really influenced the way I work in science, but this wasn't exactly that what I wanted. I really wanted to be a scientist, and I believe that being at the industry on this particular experience wasn't the way I could achieve that. So I decided to apply for a graduate school. So I don't know if many of you know, but the master I, I conducted at Universidad Autónoma de Querétaro in the food science is one of the best kind of this program in the country. So I got excited again because it was another opportunity to go abroad and learn a new culture, because I'm kind of excited when I learn people, when I know people from all around the world. So the main problem I had when I started my master's degree is that I didn't know what was the meaning to have a master's degree. I thought that it was some kind of going deeper in some areas of knowledge. So I just started uh, studying for the different subjects, but I didn't know what was to have like experiment, like make the development of a scientific project. So I really have to adapt to a new reality that I didn't realize how was it, because I thought that put that starting a master degree was something similar when I was the being an undergrad, and it was a completely different experience. The main difference of doing or person uh, uh, well, this kind of title is that you need to develop a project. And I didn't have some kind of project when I was an undergrad. I actually made a t-shirt, but it didn't involve all the experimental method that I needed to develop at the graduate school. So what actually changes? So first thing is WAC have I believe that is an important mentoring program where you actually have to make some kind of interview with a teacher or with a researcher that is outside of your laboratory. So they actually are constantly asking you, how are you feeling in the program? How is you your research going, or maybe if there is something that you could change to make your project more successful. So I believe that this is a very important situation that is particularly presented in WAC, because it actually makes you think what you want to achieve at your master degree program. So I have a goal that is to become a scientist. So I believe this program shaped me a little bit of what was important, or what were the main skills that I need to achieve to become a scientist. So the second important thing is that it's something very important to always be around people that is more experienced or smarter than you, because they actually can teach you what is the way of doing the thing. But it's important that you always have a, a, a kind of personal thinking about how doing the thing, because I believe that a lot of that maybe you can absorb all knowledge from a lot of people. But it's important that you believe in your goals. And the important thing that I felt very good my master's degree, because you feel like you're fit in a situation maybe in not the experience too, and maybe you need to change that. So I actually felt very good doing this career as a scientist. And then I started thinking that maybe I should continue to a PhD program.
It seems that he's not online. So let's see. Let's wait some minutes and see if he can connect again.
Yes.
Well, you're back, Dr. Ivan. Can you hear us? Dr. Ivan, I think that your microphone is off.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I was telling you that it is important to know that that a master degree is not a condition of a master degree. They both have different goals. The main goal of a master degree is to make some kind of deepening in some area of knowledge, but it's not very important to create new knowledge. But in a PhD program, you actually need to create new knowledge and to have a new project that actually have some kind of can make a sign or industry advance. That's the most important difference between a master and a PhD program. But actually, a master can prepare you from a successful PhD program because you actually know what are the most important skills of a scientist in a master program. Maybe you can apply those skills to develop a more successful PhD program. So when I started my PhD experience, I didn't know or I didn't realize that it was important to write. And the most important to write needs to be communicated. So what are the ways that you can communicate your science? You need to write scientific paper or scientific book chapter. You need to go to conference meeting, and you also need to work in an original research work or research idea. And the other thing is that a science is multidisciplinary. So you need to have contact with people that actually work in different areas from the one that you are working for, but also that people can have some kind of different viewpoint that actually support your project. So I wanted to have like a very rich PhD experience. So I tried to participate at every conference meeting I could. So I was at IFT in 2017 in the USA, then at Nutrition in 2019. And since then, I have continued making more presentation at international conferences because I believe it is important to communicate a science. I also worked in several manuscripts because I actually like to publish the science and all the hard work you actually conduct in a laboratory team. It's very satisfactory when that research goes online and people can actually read it. I also wanted from the very start of my PhD to have an international experience. So I had the opportunity to be a PhD research scholar at at Illinois. And I also have a personal growth because it is important to make advances not only on your scientific career, but also in personal. I have worked with repute research teams from all around the world. And I believe that I found my passion. So I actually continue working in this passion, because something very important of being a scientist is that you never stop learning, and you also need to start working with people continuously, because they can also enrich your experience of being a PhD and then a doctor in science. So what is my research about? So I have always worked with healthy snacks. Why healthy snacks? Because it is important that people understand that a snack is something that people actually don't want to stop eating. And maybe a snack could be a food strategy for combating the chronic non-communicable diseases. The non-communicable diseases are those diseases that, contrary to infectious diseases, they cannot transmit from one people to another one. So for instance, diabetes, cancer, obesity, those are some kind of condition that people cannot transmit from one people to another one, but they can produce a better health effect. So we have also believed that the incorporation of valuable and traditional ingredients in healthy snacks could be a good strategy to decrease the risk for having chronic non-communicable diseases. So at first, we wanted to demonstrate that as a snack could be digested during an in vitro gastrointestinal simulation, because we wanted to know if those healthy associated compounds that are in the snack can have some beneficial property with the gastrointestinal tract. So we make a simulation of the human digestion. We obtained samples from all the digestive stages, and at the end, we have a sample at the colon that we call the fermented non-digestible fraction. So why we wanted to focus at the fermented non-digestible fraction? Because this fraction is the one that contains more of the bioactive compound or certain food components. So as our snack was made particularly of dietary fiber, fiber cannot be digested with the gastrointestinal tract. At the end, this fiber that cannot be digested is fermented but got microbiota in the colon to produce healthy associated compounds. So we observed that these healthy associated compounds that were produced at the fermented non-digestible fraction had the ability to modulate anti-inflammatory markers. So this was a very important achievement that we have in this research, because we didn't know that a snack could be actually be used as a healthy product. So we have developed for more than 5 years a research topic that have focused in anti-inflammatory snacks. So to demonstrate that this snack was actually anti-inflammatory, we made an animal model where we simulated intestinal inflammation during a chemical substance that is called dextran sodium sulfate. So we made a 7-week model where this chemical substance is administered to the animal to simulate an intestinal inflammation. We also tried 3 different doses of the snack: 0.5 grain, 1 grain, and 1.5 grain. So we wanted to understand if a dose response curve using several concentrations of this snack had the ability to reduce inflammation. So these are some pictures of the colon of the mice. So as you can see, at a healthy control, the colon is long. At the disease control, it means using the chemical substance inducing inflammation, the colon was short. So this is one of the most important things to make a differentiation between what is an inflamed and a not inflamed colon. We observed that consuming the snack actually enlarged the colon. So we could see that the highest concentration of the snack was not beneficial. Actually, its colon was even smaller than the disease control. So we have here a problem, because we believe it that if you consume more snacks, you could have a better anti-inflammatory effect, and this is not correct. So we continued investigating this, and we observed in the colon of the animal that the highest concentration of the snack was not beneficial. So what happened here? So we also make a gene analysis about what gene could be regulated by the snack consumption. These are several genes that are present in a several pro-inflammatory pathways within the most canonical and common inflammation situation, and we observed that the highest concentration of the snack was completely different in the gene expression to the other concentration of the snack. So this was kind of a mysterious. At the end, we kind of have a mechanism of action. We believe that some of the snack bioactive compound in a certain dosage could act as regulator of an pro-inflammatory response in macrophages that are one of the first immune cell lines that actually combat inflammation. But we actually make a different model using your cells because we wanted to deepen about the highest concentration, what was happening with this. I don't have the result of the highest concentration here, but something very important that we found is that the highest concentration had a very high concentration of fiber. This fiber is fermented and produce several metabolites that most of them are not actually beneficial. So something very important that we could achieve from this research is that not for having a lot of healthy compounds, it means that it will be beneficial in health. You actually need to test all those functional and healthy products to actually demonstrate if those products are actually healthy or not. So some message to take home message is the first thing is do not rush, but you cannot feel comfortable. You always have to ask yourself what is needed to achieve your goals. The second take-home message is that the friends and colleagues are very necessary. You cannot be alone in your scientific career. You always need to build a very important bond with people from all around the world, or even from your lab mate, because it's more satisfactory if you have a work team that having just an independent work that maybe you cannot share with other people. It is important to be different and original, but it is also important to gather all the knowledge from people around you. And it's most important to work smart instead of working hard. Because if you work smart, you can make more things in less time. So doing things smartly can actually make the difference. So I want to thank to all the people that have actually influenced me to be a better scientist. And I have also worked in several organizations that have actually supported me. It's very important to have the support of international organization, of your professor, of researcher, because they can actually influence you to be a better person. So I want to thank you all for having me here. And if you have any question, please do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Luzardo. We have time for questions. So Dr. Luzardo talks a little bit about his experience being a scientist right now, all the process that took him. So if you have any question here, we can listen. Yes.
So in the take-home messages, we talk about how friends are really important and networking. What would be a good advice to maintain those relationships strong?
Could you hear that question, Dr. Luzardo?
No, I couldn't understand because I don't have like a very good Wi-Fi connection here. So if you can write it, I can also ask you.
Can you confirm me, remember, maybe so that you can listen?
Yes, it's stand up. Or you can type it. Well,
Yeah, sure, if you are online. But-
no, we never.
Well, the thing here is that, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you say that it's important to have like friends and collaborations. How can we have these strong, relationships while we are like studying or being a scientist?
No, I'm very sorry. The Wi-Fi connection here is very badly. So maybe if you can write it in the chat, I can answer you. I'm very sorry for that. Okay, the importance of friend and relationship. Well, something I also advise to people starting a PhD program is you always need to have a people that you can trust. Maybe it can be your partner or it can be like a personal relationship with someone, but it's very important to have people around you because maybe you can share with them all the problem that you are having on your research, or maybe they can support you and make you some advice on how to be more successful, not only in your research, but growing as a person. So how can we make them stronger and still study and work? I believe it is important to organize yourself on your daily basis. So if you have some kind of schedule or timetable and you also need to have free time, you need to be very organized because when we are not organized, then we arrive to laboratory late and then we start experiment late and maybe something is not working. So you need to spend more time doing this. So if you have a schedule and you respect that schedule, you can build both your career and your personal relationship with other people.
And you talk a little about the collaborations, how important they are.
Yeah, the collaboration are very important because it is impossible to make all the experiments by yourself. So if you have people that is more skilled in some area and maybe you have more experience in some area, you can join those knowledge and make a bigger work than working separately instead. So for instance, if you know people from other universities or other colleges that actually work in some field that you need to work, but you are not experienced in that, they can actually support you doing experiment or maybe teaching you on how to work in that. And maybe you can make a blend or a mixture of all that knowledge to build a stronger relationship and to make your research work more discoverable and more significantly to the scientific community.
Okay. Do we have any other question? No? So, yes.
Do you have any advice on how to stay motivated like throughout your career?
Okay, do you have some advice to be motivated during, their career?
Yeah, if you feel that you are kind of tired or lacking this motivation, maybe you need to rest more. But what is the meaning of resting? Resting is not going partying or drinking or something like that. Sometimes you need to disconnect from your daily work. So what are the best way that working to you to disconnect? For instance, going on a travel, or for instance, if you have a hobby, maybe you can develop that, or doing exercise, or for instance, just going to take a coffee with someone. So you also need to disconnect, because if you continue working and working and working, maybe you can also suffer something that people that is actually diagnosticated, that you burn out when you actually implode of everything that is making some kind of pressure in you. So you also need to rest. So it is important to work smart, but it is also very important to rest and to disconnect from your daily work. So I believe that is the most important thing that you can do, because when you disconnect, you actually can see the bigger picture, and maybe you can make a different perspective of your goal or the aim that you want to achieve.
Okay, any other question? Yes.
Hello, Dr. Luzardo. It's Dr. Kathy here. And I wanted to ask you your opinion on how important is experience abroad for you. I've seen that you've been to Barcelona and you've been to Illinois along your career. Do you feel that this was something really important to achieve what you wanted to become or to obtain?
Could you hear
I'm very sorry about the.
Okay, so how important is to be abroad, to go outside the country that you are living? About your experience, you said that you went to Barcelona, you're from Colombia, now you're here in Mexico, you were in the US. So how important is that? How it changed you?
Well, I believe that going abroad is almost essential, because when you are just working in just one country, you cannot see how is the perspective of people from all around the world, because people from all countries have different way of thinking. So for instance, if you are always at the same laboratory, you think that the things you make are always good, but you don't have this kind of knowledge from people from other places, then they actually see how are you working, and they can actually teach you a different way of doing things. Currently is not that essential, because you can, for instance, communicate with people from all around the world at online conferences, or for instance, on doing a Zoom presentation or something like that. But I believe that going abroad is important, because you can have access to resources, knowledge, and way of thinking that maybe you won't be able to find at your original country. So in my personal experience, I believe that having this international experience with people from all around the world actually change the way I think, because I like to interact and to have viewpoints from people from outside of my knowledge area. So I believe this desire of having this opinion and this communication with all researchers actually was built due to the international experience that I had. So my main advice that I give to you is that if you have the opportunity of going abroad, please take it. Maybe just 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, whatever it is time you believe is needed. It is important to have these international experiences.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Luzardo. And we appreciate your talk, and we will keep in contact soon so you can have your certificate of participation. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, guys. So this all for today, but for this all. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you all for having me here, and let's see in the future we can collaborate more in more research and presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Luzardo.
Next one, we're going to have round table.